Are mitochondria the missing link between science and spirituality? And these are two topics that I have always been relatively obsessed with. And so to find part of our body in the mitochondria, which are the organelle, meaning they're a structure inside your cells that make energy. That's what we were always taught. They just are the powerhouse of the cell. But the idea that we're learning about mitochondria over the past decade is fascinating, and that may be the gatekeeper between spirituality and the science that is our beautiful, incredible bodies. So it starts out with the fact that we think, or we've had this simplistic way of thinking of mitochondria, that they are powerhouse. They take oxygen from the air we breathe and electrons from the food we eat and spit out ATP. But the more interesting thing about mitochondria, there's so many more interesting things, is that they're actually sensors. So we have our nervous system that's constantly sensing environmental inputs, whether it is a fight you got in with your partner or you're stuck outside in an incredible heat wave. The nervous system is processing blue light, and it has a whole set of steps that occurs once that happens. The mitochondria are the part of that sensing system that's sensing the inside. So whatever the nervous system brought in and whatever else may be going on at the cellular level, the mitochondria are the canary in the coal mine. They are sensitive. They will sound off the danger sign. And when they sense danger, they will actually spill ATP outside of your cell. It's supposed to stay in the cell. If it spills outside, then we know that there's a trigger of danger happening, and that sets off a whole cascade that needs to be corrected. So understanding that when there are sensors and communicators in every cell telling us, and they talk to each other, this is the other really exciting part, is to understand that our mitochondria also are very dynamic in their shape. So typically we're taught that they look like a bean, but they are mobile and they're moving between different types of shapes. Sometimes they're round and sometimes they are like spaghetti. So it's spaghetti and meatball analogy. When they're in spaghetti state, they network, they chat with each other, they share resources. So the mitochondria is also able to be incredibly resourceful and sharing, kind of like we do when we're in community versus when we're in isolation. So they read the road. They don't just run the engine. And that's something that I think is the very important first point. And Martin Picard, who has literally a group called the Mitochondrial Psychobiology Group at Columbia University. So mitochondria psychobiology is a field in this exact topic. The next point is what I was saying initially. Your nervous system is sensing what's happening outside of you, but your mitochondria is sensing what's happening right at the door. So stress hormones go inside the cell, psychological states, being in exposure to chemicals and to viruses and things that are in your bloodstream, that's going to impact your mitochondria and put it more likely into shutdown mode, so that you're going to end up where you can't experience all the joy and beautiful connection that the mitochondria can provide because you're in protection. So the things that sound the least scientific have the most measurable biology, which is super interesting. Purpose, connection, and a sense of meaning. So these are vague but powerful types of concepts that we as humans need. And what we've seen is trackable differences in health and longevity. And the people who have the most purpose, the people who connect, the people who feel a sense of meaning in their day-to-day existence have higher functioning mitochondria. And there's been studies on this, and there are more coming out all the time, where one of the big ones was a meta-analysis in 2009. This particular meta-analysis was 148 studies, 308,000 people. And what they found there was that strong social relationships were associated with 50% greater likelihood of survival. So that's like crazy high number. That was actually in 2010. So what they found was that risks like smoking are around the same number. So isolation, lack of connection has the same impact as smoking when it comes down to longevity. So the spirituality of connection and purpose and meaning can be found directly at the cellular level through the function of your mitochondria. We also know that the heart and the brain are in constant conversation. And then you can look at things like heart rate variability, knowing that we have communication between the heart and the nervous system goes along with stress, and that HRV is a great way to measure how resilient you are. So that could be another place where spirituality is showing up. And long before microscopes, nearly every culture knew that there was something happening that was energetic more than just the individual sums of the parts. And they would talk about the life force. They would talk about breath. They would talk about how to connect to the earth. And it seems like all of these processes and the things that the ancients knew and understood, that the gateway really could be our mitochondria, because our mitochondria are also the place where the oxygen from the breath comes into act. So we bring in oxygen from deep breathing, we allow connection and meaning, we give the safety signal to ourselves, and our mitochondria, sensing that safety, will reconnect to each other. So it's mirroring your outside world when you have that coming in internally. Across the ancient world, spirit and breath were the same word. Inside your cells, breath is still where energy is born. The old language and the new science are describing the same event. So I feel that if your psychological state that you're in day in and day out, if it's stress, overwhelm, anxiety, we know now that is reaching the organelle in the mitochondria, being the mitochondria that powers you. Obviously, it's going to make you more tired. It's pretty basic. So it's more complete if you experience your life in a way that is more joyous, that is trusting that things are happening for you instead of against you. If you experience a sense of wonder with the world, look out in awe at little things like the occasional bunny rabbit that may cross your path, or the look of love in your dog's eyes, anything that you can find to get that message to your biology that there's joy out there, that there's purpose, that there's connection, you're going to feel better. And the exciting thing is that this seems to happen in the mitochondria. So for a long time, we drew a hard line. We always would think biology and science were on one side and that meaning on the other side, right? Like they're not connected. And now the organelle that is powering us, every thought is also being impacted at that level of that organelle. So the connection can change it, purpose can change it, happiness, joy, and where biology ends and meaning begins is a line that was never really there. They're all the same. So you're not a machine that happens to have a soul. You are a living system in which the two were never separate. So tend to your meaning, you're tending to your mitochondria. Care for your energy, you're caring for your spirit. It's always been the same work. And I really feel that this field is just getting going. So if you look at a lot of the studies on water, for example, and how words of positive and positivity and love impact the crystalline nature of water, we know energy is there. And if we can assume that the mitochondria is the main antenna that's interpreting energetic signals, there are going to be so many things that we can prove and find in the future having to do with the quantum nature of our mitochondria, the ability to shift our health quickly by changing our connection, our purpose, our meaning. And we won't have to work as hard at healing. We'll just have to go out and find community.